Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. We are here talking politics, and it looks like today it's just going to be me and Jeanette Levy, of course, and Mack Mariani, the political science extraordinaire from Xavier University. I love calling you stuff like that because you always laugh. So it's been a wild week in politics, a little bit. I mean, not as wild as the COVID week a few weeks ago, but Mike Pence was here. We had the final presidential debate, and then we had the Rudy Giuliani Borat brouhaha. So talk to me, Mac, if you would. Your review of the debate last night, and does it even matter or mean anything at this point?
I'm one of those people who thinks at this point in time, the number of undecided voters who actually are going to show up is pretty low. Like if you're not decided at this point, I'm not sure anybody was convinced one way or the other. Where I think the debate probably helps is mobilization, right? It kind of frames what people are thinking about over the next couple of weeks, and I think. Interestingly, I think if you look at the debate topics, which were, I mean, the first half hour was on coronavirus. If you look at the performances, I think that the topics, especially that first half hour on coronavirus, were really topics that put Trump on the defensive more than on the offensive. But his style, I think, was much improved, and I think that if you look at what he was able to get out of Joe Biden, it's that one clip at the end about energy and about phasing out fossil fuels, right? I mean, that is going to air to whatever extent the Trump campaign can afford to air it in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Florida, in Michigan, all states that have a significant energy presence. And I think that's the goal there is not necessarily to switch people's minds, but to say that this is important to you and you should show up.
Yeah, I would agree with you that President Trump's performance was much better this time around. Obviously, it didn't even seem like to me that they used the mute button that much. And like every mom and dad, they would love, if you have like even one child or more than one child, you would love to have a mute button in real life. Like they actually got to have one and they didn't really even have to use it. So maybe.
And I think that helped. I actually think that helped Trump in the sense that he wasn't walking over because of the way the ground rules kind of were set up. There was less incentive and less opportunity to walk over each other. And I think that Trump has a tendency to make everything about him. And I think that by not making it about him all the time, that actually created openings for Joe Biden to make a couple errors. I think Biden handled himself well, but I think towards the end you can kind of see he was fading, and that he was struggling a bit, just staying sharp, probably because an hour, that's a long time to be on stage for anybody.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and you're on live television, even if you're used to doing this for many, many years or whatever, you're bound to like not get everything right if you're on TV for an hour and a half straight, no commercial breaks. So tell me if you would, I think it was interesting you pointed that out, because I felt like at times there were some times Biden could have hit back a little harder on some of these things that Trump was saying, but it seemed like he was searching for the words. Like the words weren't coming to him as quickly as maybe they should have. And I don't even know if I want to get into this whole Hunter Biden Burisma thing and whatever. I don't even know if your average voter cares about that at this point. I think your average voter is more worried about, pocketbook issues. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. But I think anytime we're not talking about Donald Trump and coronavirus, I think that's a good week for Trump. I think that the challenge for Trump, I think, has been to kind of separate himself a little bit from that issue and to get voters thinking about other things. And even again, that goes to the idea that I doubt there's going to be any votes that really swing because of Burisma, but the fact that voters aren't thinking about it right now, and we're talking about Joe Biden and not Donald Trump. Again, I think that's to the president's advantage. Both of these candidates seem to do better when the other person's in the news.
Yeah, I mean, if you make it about the other guy and something bad, then it kind of sucks all the air out of the room and you don't have to worry about your own stuff. So tell me if you would, the whole Hunter Biden Burisma thing, does that go anywhere? I mean, Joe Biden said he never took any money from a foreign power or whatever he said last night. But obviously Hunter Biden did benefit in some way. He had some type of job or relationship going on. I still have to look into it a little more because I'm still not 100. I know a little bit about it, but I'm still not 100% clear on what that is. Is that something that just goes away after the election?
I don't. I think it'll be something that's a headache if Biden wins. In particular, I think this is going to be something that that will certainly have to be investigated. I think it's I think it's one of the other parts of why people like Trump were able to be elected. Right? Trump is the sort of ultimate outsider. He's not presidential. He's not even kind of within the range of what we consider political. His mannerisms are more sort of carnivalesque than they are political. But I think that there's a frustration that people have with the political system, that there seems to be two sets of rules for people. And I think Trump played that pretty effectively against Hillary Clinton. And I don't know if it'll stick as much this time because he's not the outsider anymore. He's the insider. And I think we've had a lot of, obviously there's been a lot of charges that have been thrown his way as well. So whereas I think in the past, I think he was able to leverage that to great extent. I think the real value for him right now is just that we're talking about Biden's problems and not about Trump's problems.
So I'm laying in bed the other night, and what I do is I typically at night I just read on my laptop, whether it's news or a book or whatever, or a magazine. So I'm sitting there and I'm start reading some Hollywood article. I see something about Rudy Giuliani and a Russian reporter in a hotel room, and I'm like, what is that? So I start reading. So for people who haven't seen it, you got to Google Borat and Giuliani and Russian reporter or something. So it's an actress. She's posing as a Russian reporter. Borat's always like kind of doing these kind of stings on people where he's trying to pull a fast one on them and get it on tape. And so Rudy Giuliani's in there telling this, he's in her hotel room, he was doing an interview, and then he tells her, she said something about being uncomfortable or nervous, and he said he'd make her comfortable. And I don't know if I should go into much more detail. And then he lays on the bed and his hands are in his pants. He says he's removing the microphone, and then Borat comes in and says she's only 15 or something, and then he like hightails it out of there. What? Oh my God! Tell me about this.
Well, I've done a lot of interviews. I don't think I've ever had them put the microphone through my pants, but
exactly, that's not what we do.
No, yeah, I don't. I mean, I think that it looks kind of skeevy, and certainly a bit inappropriate, I guess. I don't think he was, doing anything bad, for lack of a better word. I do think he was tucking his shirt in, and it was probably a bit of editing magic on the part of the Borat team to make that seem a little bit more nefarious. But just the idea of being in a hotel room with a younger woman, and at the end of the day, it's not one of the candidates. Giuliani is the president's lawyer. It looks bad. It dominated Twitter for a couple hours, but then it sort of quickly went away. So I doubt it'll have much. It won't have many legs, but I think people will get a lot of laughs at Giuliani's expense. And I think it goes to the sort of culture of Washington where I think people behave in ways that ordinary Americans can't really wrap their head around, which is again one of the reasons why people distrust politicians.
Yeah, and I'm not sure anybody. I mean, we'll watch. I'll watch this show or movie or whatever it is, and I'm sure I'll have a laugh and it'll be ridiculous. But whether or not your average person who may or may not be undecided cares, who knows? But it was funny. All right, let's talk about our backgrounds for a second. Out here in the shot, I wish I could have put something up to hide my messy desk, but it's a work in progress. I'm trying to clean it. You win best background of the day. You have one of those super fancy refrigerators like Nancy Pelosi with
it's filled with ice cream.
Yeah, right. So like that is one of those really cool. It's a refrigerator that looks like it's like a wood cabinet or something. So I
It's
give you
not as fancy. If you could see the rest of my kitchen, you would know that it is not. It is not very fancy. My wife's been talking about replacing the floor for about 6 years. No, I don't want to put on airs with my fancy refrigerator is what I want to say. Or nor, you know.
I love it. I mean, I I just have a GE something in the, we moved in and it was here and we kept it. So, all right. Well, you have a great weekend. We'll do this again next week. Hopefully we'll have some other guests. I'm going to make sure nobody's in the waiting. Yep. Just us. Nobody came this week. Oh, well, I'll invite
Next
some more
time.
people for our super pre-election program next
Oh,
week.
it's going to be, I mean, I think it's going to be I think the next week is going to be crazy. We've had October surprises every week. I expect some big things this week on both sides.
Well, we'll be back to talk about it all next week. All right, Mac, have a good weekend.
Thanks, Anjanette.